if anyone does a project, let's say, they even search how to do the design of that from various, we have tools. They even do that. So it's a complete set. It's not just one thing. Like when anyone comes to a corporate or they work for any company, they, you know, come to see that there are different segments. Some design the UI, some takes the decision, some code the back end, some code the front end. It's all divided. The main reason for this division is for things to, go very fast paced. But that doesn't mean that someone from backend does not know front end. You need to have a good idea of everything. So that is full stack development in general. It's a, I
Hmm.
would suggest, like, it's a very vast field. Full stack development. See, if now people will tell backend is very vast, people will tell front end is very vast. So when you add two vast things, it will be more vast, right? That's the main thing. So full stack development is very vast, and it always keeps you, you always, have an edge over the other engineers if you know full stack development. Let's say, for example, at one point of time in full stack development, you know a front end framework, and in back end, you know one another framework. And at one point of time, suddenly you see that the front end framework, like the hype has been declined. So you always have something else to support you, which is the backend framework, and same goes for vice versa. So yeah.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit more about front
Mhm.
end and back end for people who are freshers and who don't know much about it?
Yes. So front end is basically what you are seeing right now in your app, in your phone or in your laptop or any other devices that we are using right now. As I said, the UI. Some you all of you must have heard of something called as UI developer or UX developer, right? What do they do? They basically try to design the UI so that the user engagement, which is UX, gets more interesting, right? All various animations, then how a user can put one input. When the user puts an input, what happens after that? All these things are something which is the front end. The front end communicates with the back end using something called as web services. Or there are even some other things called like serverless architecture, which we generally I will tell about that in the next after a few some minutes. When we when we talk about some databases where you want to just store data and you want it to be ready to go, they are called serverless architecture. There are many things that are included in front end. So all, if like long story short, front end is basically what a user sees of the entire product. The front end should be designed in such a manner that transparent it should be transparent enough to show everything that the product has to offer, right? The
Hmm.
product will be having many features. The front end should be designed in such a manner that everything that the product has to be offered to a user should be shown to the user in a very seamless fashion, so that the user can understand it very well. That's basically UI and UX. Now coming to backend, backend is the main, like heart of the application, as you can see. Like if you take if you take
I think there is some network issue. We just we just contact Shashwat and see if there is a network issue at the end. Uh, I think there is a network issue. Um, just let us try to resolve that, and then maybe we can come back. So I think there is a power failure at Shashwat's end. I'm trying to get in touch with him. Uh, Let me just see if we can get him back on the call. Uh, okay, yeah, so I think Shashwat has rejoined. Shashwat, can you hear us? Hello. It's connecting. Yeah. Yeah. So he's back. So where do you remember where you left off? You can just continue from there. You were talking about backend, I think.
Yeah.
Huh. Huh.
So
Please continue.
yeah. So basically, what I was telling is that backend is the heart of a web application. Like it, it's the entire source. Like if there's a front end and you don't have any backend or you don't know where to communicate it, that's called a game. Like you can have multiple games. Like everyone would have played some game like Snake and Ladder, right? or like the old game that we used to have in our old phones, where the snake will be going, and the snake would be eating, and the size of the snake would be increasing. It's basically a complete front end, but there is no back end in that, because it need not save any data of a user, right? Or even if it saves the data, it just saves it for a temporary basis. Once the phone gets destroyed, or once, uh, basically, see, what I want to tell over here is the data is stored in the phone itself, right? The snake's data, how many games you have played, what is the score of this game, what is the score of the game that you played 5 days back. All those things are stored in your phone itself, and that is accessed by only and only you. No one else can access it unless and until that person has access to your phone. So that's the complete front end thing. It's a complete game, right? Or not only game, you can tell any application that's uh, enclosed by only the person that is seeing it. Simple. But what happens when like there will be some data of a user based on which someone wants to develop the game. Now the game that you're playing has already been developed, like that snake game that I gave an example. That snake game will have newer versions of it with new animations. We can say new animations ho gaya, yeah, new features ho gaya, which the game which has been decided by the developers of the game without taking the data of the user. They just predicted, okay, if I do like this, there will be more users who will be downloading my game. You're getting my point? Or if I, do this thing, or if I, change the animation to something like this, there'll be more people who will be more interested to do this. All these decisions that were taken were without any data. But now that is not the case of a complete product. Let's say we are telling a product of any product you take for example, Shiksha or Naukri.com. In all these kind of products, the data, there are multiple, first of all, there are multiple segments of data. This product is not only handling one user, it is handling multiple users, and each user will be having a different set of data. So we need to like kind of have a mechanism to store that. Front end will be same for all the users, but the data that the user is sharing with me will be different, right? So this can also be done without a backend. For example, if you take the example of that game, it's a snake game. We can introduce something like, okay, what who the user is. But again, in that there will be some limitation. Like maximum I can store 5 users, or maximum I can store 6 users. For example, in your car, you would have seen that at a point of time it can only connect with 5 devices, right? Or at a point of time it can only connect with, let's say, 10 devices. That's how this is, because those systems are developed and deployed. There are no ways it can be updated. There are no ways it can be communicated with somewhere else, right? It's there and it's there. But when you don't want something like this, for example, you have your entire system, your entire decision making architecture, your entire people who operate this in a different location, but you want to show that front end to someone who can access it using just a device, no need of anything else. Like, for example, a smartphone. The user wants to access it and wants to play with it, and you want to deploy features online. So there comes the aspect of backend. This is how the back. I mean, this is how this. Now, what we are telling is that we are loosely coupling the front end and the back end. We are letting the user access something that the user thinks is mine, but which is stored with us, right? And then there are many other concepts like data privacy, etc., etc. It all started lately. All the social media apps, Orkut, Facebook, all those things. So this is the thing. Like, What I said, the user thinks it's my data, but the data is not stored on his or her device. It's stored somewhere else. And
Right.
there are many rules, for how we can deal with that data, what we do with that data, all these things. So this is how backend got, introduced, that okay, my backend will be over here, and using some network protocols like HTTP or HTTPS, etc., etc., you can access this particular application using a front end and a device. So this is
Okay.
how backend
Mhm.
and front end are loosely coupled.
Okay, so the next question is that can you elaborate on some key technical skills in terms of programming languages, any frameworks, or any other thing that someone needs to develop when they are a student or they are fresher or they are transitioning into the field of full stack development?
Yes. So first of all, I would suggest like to have your basics fully clear of HTML and CSS, because these are the only two things which uh, basically. And when I will tell about framework, the framework will be translated into HTML and CSS only. So if you already start with learning the basics of how HTML works, what are the basic tags of HTML: body, head, H1, H2, P, BR, all the various tags. So you will know how a particular page is shown in one complete browser: Internet Explorer, Edge, Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Opera, all these browsers. How does a browser show a page, right? Then try to learn, ये तो हो गया design वाला. Then try to learn how I can design a complete segment using CSS, cascading sheets, right? Then after that, try to learn how to dynamically updated data. For example, now what I told was a complete static page. Like you have written a paragraph, you have designed it. When someone loads it, he or she will only see that page. But now, for example, I have a button, and when the user presses that button, I want the paragraph to be changed. So there comes something called as logic. You will be having one logic. Okay, if this button is pressed, this thing will happen. If this button is pressed, this thing will happen, right? So then you will come up with a logic. And how do you know, like, a browser knows all these things? You can learn all these things from MDN docs. There are many, like free code camp ho gaya, MDN docs, Mozilla. So how a browser communicates with the engine that deploys this HTML CSS browser engine, which is Chrome V8. Now that's used by everyone. These are called event listeners, right? So particularly when you, like, I would request everyone to like just go to Google and Google something called as command pattern. COMMANDPATTERN, and observer pattern. I'm sure most of you would have, like in your curriculum of your college, would have tried to discover what design patterns are. And very basic design patterns you would have already covered, like singleton, etc., etc. What I'm telling right now are something called as behavioral patterns. So how does a thing behave? Like as I said, when you click a button, what happens? This is a behavior, right? When I click button number two, what happens? This is again one behavior. So try to Google what is command pattern and what is observable pattern. Then you will know how the entire event listeners that I told right now happens. Like for every button, you will be having one event, and etc., etc. So all these things you will come to you'll come to know about it. Then once your these basics are clear, you can very quickly grasp React or Angular for front end. React or Angular. These are basically, again, for this you need to know some Node.js concepts. I'm sure most of you would have heard what Node.js is. I think I need not go deep about it. But anyway, I will even tell that for the backend thing. So basically, React and Angular, all these things are frameworks which run using Node.js, right? So Once you know how this event listeners work, you will know how to design something more complex. But you need that you can do that using plain JavaScript itself. You need not write HTML for that. And this is called JSX, what React tells. Like I'm sure if you would have googled how React X works, what does it mean is that a state what React tells is that a complete page is a state. There are many things in React like a state हो गया, then उसके बाद you will most of you would learn that while Google more about React. But all the page is one state, and that state is changed using JavaScript. So it's called JSX. Same goes to Angular. Angular is more oops concentrated, but React is more functional programming concentrated. So it's pretty easy if you and mostly now everyone is using React only. Angular was very popular, but now React and Next.js, these both are very popular frameworks that are being used because they're internally they do the same thing, and they're a little bit easy to manage and little bit quicker to develop and learn too. So I would suggest everyone to have a look of React only first, not go very deep into Angular because that's a little bit more complex, and that's Angular is typically written in TypeScript, and TypeScript is very strict in terms of what it wants, like Java or JavaScript, and sorry, like Java or C++. This is gone from front end, and now when I talk about the backend, in backend there are multiple languages, multiple, because backend is what it's backend is one like one application, like a hotel management system that you have done in C++, right? Or some other thing that you have, let's say one program that you have in your C++, but now the input for that program is coming from one another source, https or REST APIs, representational state transfer. The states are, I mean, your backend and front end are completely decoupled. Using APIs, the front end is communicating with the backend. So the let's say for the input for that hotel management system is coming from somewhere else, right? But the hotel management system you have coded in C++, right? That's your main logic. Now ठीक है, अब ये इनपुट जो आ गया उसको मैं कैप्चर कैसे करूंगा? कैप्चर करने के बाद क्या क्या करना है उस इनपुट के साथ? व्हाट विल आई डू दिस? कैन यू डू ऑल these things using C++? Yes, obviously, because like the V8 engine which Node.js uses, internally it uses C++ only. It has been written using C++, C. So if you see, there are many languages: Go, PHP, Python, C++, Java, JavaScript, Ruby on Rails. Multiple languages are there. These languages are basically used to code, right? They're not, like for specifically made for something. But what are specifically used for backend is Node.js, JavaScript, Java, and C++. Like I'm sure most of you would be surprised to know this, but C++ was the first thing which was heavily used and also is being used till now for backend development because it is more structural and it's more object oriented. It's very easy to manage if you write a backend using Java or C++. It's obviously it takes time to develop something in real world because it's very strict. But once you have developed it, managing it is very easy. This is one plus point of Java or C++. But if your goal is to develop and deploy a complete backend service very quickly, then JavaScript is preferred because it's not very strict. When you learn JavaScript, you know it's not very strict. You just need it's same like Python. You just have one keyword, which is, like there are three keywords: var, let, and const. But still, the type of that is determined while it is being run, right? You need not tell it is int, you need not tell it is string, you need not tell it is, a boolean. It determines it while running. So that's how, it's very, that is the main thing which has completely, cut off the strictness. When you want to communicate with something else, and you are, suppose you have written a function, that function accepts two arguments. You need not ask someone that, Acha, what will be the argument for this function, right? You can do that using C++ and Java using function overloading. But again, in that you need to write 5 to 6 functions for different types of arguments. Here you just need to write it once. The rest all will be handled by the arguments itself. This was the main concept. This is the main reason why JavaScript is used for fast development. It's not strict. It's very quick, simple.
Okay, so now that we have talked about skills, we will move on to learning path. Like, if you can, I think most of the learning path you have already covered.
Yeah,
What is left is that if you can mention some, or highlight some of the online courses, any certifications, or any online resources, like maybe some blogs, some mentors, some YouTube channels that you might have followed during your learning journey. So can you suggest something on those lines?
yeah. So, like everyone would be knowing Abhishek Saini. He is the master of, JavaScript. His course is the one and only course that you require to learn front end JavaScript, or React ho gaya, or anything else. Then, if you want to dive into Java, then there are various these things. You just need to know what to, type in Google. As I said, start from very basic, like free code camp, or like MDN docs. After this, you will Google your own doubts. When have some questions nowadays, like you even have chat gpt, so you need not type anything in Google, or you need not even think of what to type in Google to get the right answer. You just ask chat gpt, I want to do this. Okay, very simple. Let me just tell it right now. Let me just say it out loud. For example, you have a thought right now, okay, and you are telling that, I have a I have built a web application and I have this thing. Let's say, for example, I have a picture. When the mouse comes on the picture, I want the picture to be faded. How can I do this? Type this in ChatGPT and ChatGPT will tell you how to do that. If you want, you can Google this too, and you will get many articles. In ChatGPT, you will get only one article, right? So you are stuck up with only that thing, but you will get a headshot. Like, okay, this is how it's done. From there, you pick up some words. Okay, acha, this is one word. This is one word. Let's say, uh, on mouse hover. What I'm telling is an event listener, on mouse hover. So on mouse over is one word that ChatGPT suggested. Let me just Google this. Achha, I googled this, and then you go to MDN doc. In MDN doc, it is completely written that, okay, on mouse over is a event. When this event is fired, what you want to do, you can just write that in callback, and that will be happened. So this should be the way how you need to think. What I can tell you is how you should think. And then the resources are plenty. I would not tell anyone to follow this resource or this resource exactly, because at the end of the day, what resource you find comfortable with is best for you. But I just can tell of how you can think, how you should think of. Start with ChatGPT, write what you clearly want, have a headshot. It will give you one this thing. If you're satisfied with it, good, well enough for you. If you're not satisfied with it, pick up some keywords, try to research on that, on those keywords by yourself using Google. So that will be a, that's how nowadays I am learning new things. Obviously, because
Yeah.
ChatGPT will only tell you one thing. I cannot
Mhm.
I cannot be satisfied with just one answer. I need to see multiple answers to be satisfied. So that's the thing.
Okay. So, just one last point that we can, cover is that what are some of the strategies, or are there any tips you have for freshers out there who are trying to enter into this field, who are trying to crack a job interview in the industry? Like any strategies that you might have followed when you were searching out, or you were, sort of starting your career?
Yes. So first of all, web development is a complete, our web development, if you see as itself, is a complete uh, field. But a lot of people in college, think that this is the only thing that will land me a job. But no, when you come to corporate, you need to have something called as your basics clear, because these are very large scales, systems. Over here, you are not just designing a project, which is, as I said, दो तीन logic हो गया, and then those three logic may or may not even change in future, right? The logics, but in something that the product that is, for for example, this product should be sustained forever, and there will be changes that will be coming and going. How will you think to code something for something which is always changeable? This is the thing that you need to have in your mind. So how, and here comes the thing, here comes the concept of oops, design patterns. And then you will know that actually, like, I would not tell everyone to not try Node.js and all. You need to know how, you need to know how the front end and back end are related. For this, to give you a headshot, it's very, for to have develop anything very quickly, you need to learn some JavaScript हो गया, HTML CSS हो गया, MongoDB हो गया, and yeah, coming to database, I would tell that have a good knowledge of MongoDB based on your projects, because MySQL is something which is covered by your courses in your college. तो वो तो आपका हो ही गया होगा, right? You just need to brush it apart for interviews or anything else. But MongoDB is a good to have thing. Since you have extra time, ठीक है, इस time में मैं क्या करूँगा? I will learn MongoDB. So you will be now good versed with NoSQL versus SQL. Apart from this, I would tell everyone to have some knowledge of very few, like, how will you, suppose you have a code, you have a problem, how will you design this problem solution to this problem, right? Be clear with your DSA, data structures and algorithm, DSA, oops, OS, these three, nothing else.
Okay. So I think we have covered most of the commonly asked questions. That brings us to the end of the session.
Yeah.
I'm just launching a quick feedback poll for the attendees who are attending right now. We just wanted to understand from you whether you found the session useful, and whether you would recommend it to others, your friends, your colleagues. I am also just going to share the YouTube link for this particular session in the chat box here, so that everybody can just save it for future reference if you want to go back to the session. If you don't remember some info that has been shared by Shaswat, you can just go back there and just revisit it. So, okay, so I think we have some responses in the poll. Thank you so much, Shashwat, for taking out the time for sharing your insights. Apart from a little bit of, I'm really sorry about the tech
Yeah,
glitches
yeah.
that we had, but it's okay. I mean, you sort of, after we saw you share all the information, I think that must have been compensated. So thank you so much for taking out the time. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I'm pretty sure they were pretty quite useful. Even I could understand a bit because I've been doing sessions for a very long time in with tech mentors. So, some of it
Nice.
I also understood. So
Sure.
yeah, yeah. So thank you so much once again.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Bye.
All